IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde laying out her policy agenda in a speech ahead of the IMF annual meetings next week. I got a chance to sit down with her for an exclusive interview yesterday. Asked about the increasing regulatory and political pressure on big tech, everything from taxes to fake news under the microscope. I asked her whether companies like Google and Facebook actually deserve more regulatory scrutiny.
I think the way in which they operate and the value that they generate the activity from needs to be looked at, and I would hope that this can be done in cooperation with them. Value that is driven by data, by information, by pattern of consumption, that we volunteer in a way without really us knowing about it, determines the value of what they can offer in terms of services. And clearly revenue needs to be contributed by those companies. Where it is contributed, how it is defined, how intellectual property is going to be used as a basis to allocate revenues and base taxation on. All these things are need to be reinvented, and I hope that dialogue takes place rather than harsh adversarial debates.
Have they become too powerful?
Competition law is there to actually deal with it.
I wanted to also ask you about your comments, which made a lot of waves last week on Bitcoin. You said could ultimately give central banks a run for their money. Mm-hmm. So with countries like China and Korea this week cracking down, is that a mistake not to embrace it?
You know, what the Chinese authorities have decided is to just ban the initial offering of Bitcoins. And I think that they've done that on the basis of the analysis that it was at least strongly dominated by, speculation and Ponzi-like schemes, which is certainly showing that they are paying attention. When you look at a country like Kenya, for instance, where tax is being paid totally digitally, when you look at the way in which some civil servants are paid also totally electronically and without leakages in the system, as is the case in some of the developing countries. When I look at my own country, where all transactions between my compatriots and the Treasury Department is all now on digital support. I think there are massive changes taking place at the moment, which everybody needs to be attentive to.
Would you ever buy any for yourself?
No, I didn't, and it's too expensive for me at the moment.
Christine Lagarde, headline, Bitcoin is too expensive at the moment. But seriously, her comments about the new digital economy and payment system and phrasing that off of the question about whether central banks and governments should embrace Bitcoin, to me, is a very powerful statement from the head of the International Monetary Fund, especially in light of some other recent comments from big bankers completely dismissing the idea as a fraud.
Well, look, JP Morgan thinks it's a fraud.
Right.
Bank of America thinks it's a terrible idea. We talked to senior official there. And then Goldman Sachs on the other side, maybe trying to either create a market or mining it or who knows what the plan is. So everybody's coming on a different side.
She really raises an important question, though, around how taxation needs to change in this digital era. You've got huge companies like Google, Facebook. They don't make stuff like the old manufacturing companies. Everybody knew how to tax those. Who has the convening power to bring those companies and others to the table so they don't end up saying, well, whatever proposal the EU has or the US has or whomever, it's unfair? Who's going to bring all these folks together at a table? I don't know.
And I think also the point on privacy is related in that it has to be looked at, and it has to be, I think her point was, in conjunction with the companies and not just regulators starting to put all sorts of new rules and stricter sort of laws around this.
Right.
But let's try to figure this out.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.